I played the first speedrunning game. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't look into it. So here's a little history on my channel. Before I launched my channel, I made 4 videos and I scheduled them to be released one a week. That way I would have a month buffer to make videos in case life got in the way and I could still release a video every week. Well, in the last 6 months, I've learned some things about myself. And one of the things I've learned is I really need a looming deadline to motivate me to do work. Otherwise, I procrastinate. And that's how I ended up in this situation where I needed to make a video in 3 days, including playing the video game. And so, Prince of Persia, a game you can beat in an hour. Have to beat in an hour. Here's the story, and if you've seen a particular Disney movie, this is all going to sound very familiar. There's a sultan, a princess who's in love with a commoner, and an evil vizier named Jafar with eyes on the throne. But the only way he can get it is by marrying the princess. So he takes the commoner and throws him in a dungeon and tells the princess that she either marries him or dies, and she has 1 hour to decide. So you, as the unnamed commoner, now have 1 hour to save the princess. All that's missing is a blue genie and a talking bird. And that 1 hour is the length of time you have to complete the game. When you start a new level, you get a little reminder of how much time you have left. And the game is pretty straightforward. It was the first cinematic platformer, which means it focused more on atmosphere and realistic movement than action. And when I first downloaded the game, I read the manual just to see what the controls are. And the controls are shift. You use the D-pad to move around and you press shift to do everything else. Shift to walk, shift to hold on to ledges, shift to draw your sword, shift to attack, shift to drink whatever random bottle of liquid you find lying on the ground. And that realism is thanks to a technique called rotoscoping, where basically an artist will trace over a live action video to make animations for their game. Mechner, the developer, he recorded his brother doing a bunch of acrobatics, and for the fight scenes, they used movies like The Adventures of Robin Hood. Mechner even said a lot of the inspiration for this game came from movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Arabian Nights. In fact, there wasn't even supposed to be any fighting in the original game, but after some playtesting, they figured out that just having the acrobatics and traps was kind of boring, so they added the doppelganger fight, and later they added guards. The doppelganger thing is kind of interesting. At one part of the game, you jump through a magic mirror, and the doppelganger comes out the other side, and then throughout the game, he annoys you. He steals a potion, he kicks you off a ledge into a dungeon, which takes you from level 6 to level 7. And then when you finally fight him, because he's your doppelganger, you actually share health. So anytime you hurt him, you hurt yourself. You beat him by merging with him, not fighting him. And a lot of the sword fighting in this game is actually pretty interesting. When you're fighting regular guards, you do the standard Assassin's Creed thing where you wait for them to attack and then you parry and counterattack. But then later on, when the guards figure out how to parry, you have to switch to a more aggressive fighting style. And then there are the skeletons that you actually can't kill with your sword, and you need to lure them either into traps or off ledges. And the game is full of traps. It's built around them. Spikes, pits, these gnashing blade things, collapsing floors. And the game actually shows you where the collapsing floors are because they kind of shake when you get near them, which is nice for a retro game because they have a tendency to just kill you outright. And to deal with all these traps, the game does give you infinite lives. So when you die, you go back to the beginning of the level, but the timer never resets. So while you have infinite chances, you don't have infinite time. And the game does help you out with potions. There are potions that refill your health. There are potions that give you more health. One that lets you hover or fall slower so you can fall from a height without getting hurt. And a couple that poison you. And one that flips the screen upside down. And then another that flips it back, and that's literally all it does. It's just there to make your life more difficult. And while you're doing all the hard work, the princess is sitting around staring at an hourglass. Between each level, there's a cutscene that shows the princess waiting. As far as she knows, you're thrown in the dungeon. So I'm not really sure what she's waiting for. So when I was editing this, I realized it said that she didn't know he was in the dungeon. So I guess she's waiting to be saved, which makes sense. But there is one part of the game where she lets this little white mouse go and it ends up freeing you from a trap. So I guess she kind of had a plan, but All of this, the rotoscope technology, the atmosphere, the cutscenes, led to a game that flopped in the United States. It sold 7,000 copies. It wasn't until it was released in Europe and Japan that the game really exploded. It got ported onto over 20 systems and eventually launched an entire franchise that's still going. Though the later games focus more on action than puzzles, and it even went through an emo phase. But if you like the Prince of Persia games and you want to see where it all began, it's old enough that it's free to play. And like I said, you can beat it in an hour. Because you have to. Prince of Persia may be simple by today's standards, but it was very influential. And, you know, it was the first cinematic platformer, so it's a piece of gaming history. See you next time.